With free agency a week away, why are we getting the impression that the Avalanche seem pretty content with what they have? Let's talk about that in a new episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Locked On Avalanche, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciate it. I'm your host, Chris Maselli, and with me as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. If you want to get in on the conversation, then join our subtext. Link is in the show notes. Chat with Kyle and I one-on-one. We get your opinion, everything Avalanche related, and share it on this very podcast. We're going to check in today with our good friend, Mr. Kyle. Yes, is the blood flowing? We're going to have a therapy session here with Mr. Sullivan because we all like players outside of the Avalanche. We're allowed to do that, and one of Kyle's favorites got traded. So I want to know how you're doing. So we'll do that a little bit later. And could there be a new norm in the immediate future for some NHL players, the bigger name players, of taking short-term deals with the salary cap going up pretty significantly over the next couple of years? Could you see some of the big names take short-term deals and kind of cash in, double dip here with some big numbers? We'll talk about that. And how could that relate to one Cale Makar? Could he go that route as well? So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But where we're going to start is, yes, we have free agency right around the corner, and there's a lot happening in the league right now. You're getting moves and you get this stuff, and it's going to happen for the rest of this week leading up to July 1st. And the Avalanche have been, they had their big signing with Brock Nelson, but they've been more, they had, some signings for some Colorado Eagle guys. More or less, they've been a little bit quiet. And there was, I think it was Elliot Friedman who said they have been receiving calls on, like every team does, right? This is where you do your work and kind of call around to other GMs. Hey, who's available on your team? Is this guy available? This is just where you start kind of like laying the groundwork of moves that you want to make in the next month. And like every other team, the Avs seem to be receiving calls. And according to Friedman, they're not really, they're listening, because you never know. You could just get a deal that just absolutely blows your socks off and you go for it. But the thinking is like, they're just telling these teams that are calling no. The one name they threw out was Charlie Coyle. I think teams have called on Coyle, and they seem content to keep him. And you're not hearing, you just hear chirps, right? At this stage in the season or off season, where you're hearing, you hear that a lot. I'm hearing this. And it's kind of crickets right now in Avalanche world. Are we expecting a very kind of calm, quiet free agency period, start a free agency period for the Avalanche? I'm getting that impression.
You know what? I am too, because it doesn't feel like the Avs are in a place where they can really do that much. Like we talked about with the Taves signing yesterday, like that was not feasible financially. You can have the conversations about everything else around that later, but financially just can't happen. You have $1.2 million. You still have some roster spots to fill. Making those, and it's funny, like you're hearing, like a couple weeks ago, you heard the scuttlebutt around Natchez is not happy in Colorado. And now it's people are calling about Charlie Coyle.
Mm-hmm.
You know who I don't hear people calling about? And it's the person that every time the word trade comes up, we try and insert Sam Girard.
Yeah.
Nobody's calling about
that we know of. There's always stuff going on behind closed doors, right? But these things get out from time to time, right? You're right. He's one that was on my mind.
And there's no buzz. So it feels like the bigger contracts on this team that they are willing to move, other teams know that. They know where the Avs are, and they look at this roster and they say, hey, would you like to get rid of this for what? And are the Avs looking at draft capital, are they really like interested in making a splash in this draft? It doesn't really feel like it. It feels like they're happy with this team. They're happy picking in the 97th round, and they're good to roll it back one more again and try it again next year.
You said, like, you started your comments by saying, like, what can they really do? Like, if they wanted to, they could flip this thing on its head and move some guys around and move some pieces around. Like, they could absolutely do that. I just don't think that they want to. And this goes in like tandem with the press conference that Sakic and McFarland had at the end of the year, where they were praising this team. They were saying, like, we like this team. We just didn't produce. So you have to feel like there's one of two ways to go with that. You feel like this team can produce and just give them more time because you made a lot of changes and put them together full season, and you feel better about what they can produce, or the flip side of that, or you don't, or you feel like, no, like, we've seen enough, even though it was a small sample size, we've seen enough to know that it's just not going to work, and let's make some moves. And you're hearing nothing. Like, you're seeing a lot, especially like from the insiders, right? From the Friedmans and the LeBruns and all that, and the Johnstons, like, excuse me, you're hearing things like, Columbus wants to be a major player, or Columbus wants to is going to put their best foot forward in making changes. Same thing with, like, you're hearing, like, Utah wants to do that. Like, you get that at this point of the offseason, of these are the teams that are going to make a go at it in the offseason. And, the Avalanche aren't in a position to do that cap wise, but every team is in a position to do it. If you want to move guys around, if you want to make trades, every team can do that, but you're not even hearing that part of it coming out of the Avalanche camp.
And, you brought up the press conference and the front office praising the construction of this team. I think they went out and doubled down on that with the Brock Nelson signing. Like, if they wanted to make some moves, they could have used that $7 million somewhere else on other pieces. They'd probably use that to trade some pieces out. But they said, no, we do believe in this team, and we're bringing Brock Nelson back again because we like what he brought to this team, and they paid what they did for Brock Nelson. We'll see how that ages. But like, they're committed to, hey, 9 times out of 10, if you run that playoff through a playoff simulator, it's a different outcome for this team, because on paper, this team should be better. On the ice, they just did not produce. So they're doubling down, saying, no, we believe in this team. It's time for them to step up. So I do anticipate it being relatively quiet.
Yeah, I mean, you do have a couple more spots you have to fill, so they're going to do something. But you can't do what they did this last offseason, or not offseason, during the season, and just kind of, they really, like, revamped a lot of their roster players during the season. You can't then just do that again in the offseason and then do it again during the season at next trade deadline. You can't just have this constant revolving door of players. And I'm not saying the Avalanche do that. I'm just saying, like, they're not doing that. So that's why, like, they went and made the changes that they did last year. They clearly like those changes, and they clearly want to see what that team can do when we're not introducing a handful of new guys, and give this team a full season to show what they can do. So yes, for this free agency, it's probably going to be quiet. I go back to, could a team just call them up and be like, hey, let's do this deal? And they look at it and be like, there's no way we can turn that down. Sure. I think that possibility is always there. But if that doesn't happen, they're not going to be the ones to go out to a team and say, like, we're shopping this guy. That's what you're not hearing. You're not hearing, like, that Coyle is available for trade. Sam Girard is available for trade. Manson's available for trade. Like, you're not hearing that stuff, that the Avalanche are active shoppers. They seem content. They seem like, we have most of our team. Yeah, we have to put a couple more roster spots on the books, and then we're good. And we're going to get to work, like, ASAP. So we'll see. And do they just give them 1 year to do that? It could be, because, Coyle's got 1 year left on his deal. Manson does, I believe. So, like, they got to produce. They have to produce.
And I think that the team feels confident in this team because you mentioned the Miko trade. They talked about this team's just not deep enough. And to go from this team's just not deep enough to we believe in this team, like this is also the same front office that let guys like Erod walk. They traded Bowen Byram. Like names, like they could have went out and re-signed Matt Duchene, brought him back, but they didn't. Like there's names out there they could have gone after. They could have done the Taze thing. They could have made that work. This is the first time I've heard them be so confident about the top to bottom depth and construction of the roster. And I feel like they've committed to it. And I feel like they're fine. I feel like the little Band-Aid pieces that we've grown to love for the Avalanche are what's coming up. But I feel like how it is right now, I think they're good with running it one more time because they are getting tired of flipping it every offseason, every trade deadline, the Raijos, the Mikos, the flipping it around every single time. I feel like they want to see this process work for more than one season.
And it's funny because while I'm sitting here saying like you're not hearing the Avalanche like involved in this player or interested in this player, you're hearing like for like Mitch Marner, two of the teams that somehow are interested in him, Vegas and Dallas. And you're like, number one, how? And if that happened, this goes back to what I'm saying. Like you could, if you wanted to be in the Mitch Marner sweepstakes, you can just say that you are. But clearly moves are going to have to be made for those teams to land Mitch Marner.
Yeah.
And, so fine. They put their names out there. We're interested. Okay. Then what moves? You got to do something here specifically for those two teams. Vegas always finds a way to make that work. So that there's no loyalty in Vegas. If they want the new shiny toy, they will get rid of the shiny toy they got last year. Dallas, I have no idea how they are going to be able to afford him, but they're in the conversation. They've thrown their name in the hat. They're in the conversation, and that makes other teams panic. It makes other teams like, what? We don't want Dallas to pick up Mitch Marner. Are you kidding me? We don't want Vegas to do it. So they go in even harder. So other teams go in even harder. And the Avalanche are not even touching that stuff. They're not even like, no, sure, we'd love to get Mitch Marner, but we can't, and we don't need him right now. So they're not even in those conversations. You're not even hearing them in those crazy pie in the sky, we could bring this guy in conversations that teams like Vegas and Dallas somehow are. Crazy.
It just makes me laugh. It's like Dallas and Vegas show up to the auction. They have their numbered auction paddle, and that's what they're going home with. Like they're like, "We're here for Mitch Marner," and they walk. And like I don't know what
they make doing. Everybody else panic in the process, man.
Yeah,
it worked, but just Vegas is going to get him. I don't know how Vegas is going to get him, and it will just make me hate them even more. But talking about contracts. Could be seeing a new wave of short-term deals with Mitch Marner being one of them. So we're going to talk about this because it's an interesting topic and something that could be happening here in the next week or so. So we'll talk about that coming up next. Let's hear from Wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that is both delicious and nutritious, then crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. It's one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. You can get a couple different varieties, a couple different flavors. Kyle always goes shells and
jalapeno lime.
He's one of those guys. I am the no shells honey roasted all day long. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com right now to learn more. All right. So interesting stuff that you're kind of hearing rumblings about. And it is about players possibly taking shorter term deals right now, and then kind of, cashing in again. So the two names, two guys that can get a new contract. One, because he has none right now, and that is Mitch Marner. And Connor McDavid is the other one that you're hearing a lot about, and he can sign his extension. right around the corner. The thinking here is because the cap is going up significantly over the next couple years, just get a 2 or 3 year deal. And there's other reasons why. Like, yes, one is the money, and one could be from like Connor McDavid's standpoint. You have another 2 years of me. I will sign on for 2 years and put in what you can. Let's see what we can do, and then after those 2 years, maybe I'll reassess. But the other part of it is definitely the money. So you go in, you sign a 2 year deal for a high percentage of the cap, and then let's say anywhere from 2 to 4 years. And then when the cap goes up after those 2 to 4 years, because it's going up even more so. Like, we don't know what it is we know what it is next year and the year after. We don't know what it is after that. But all signs are pointing going up even more percentage-wise year over year. So the Athletic did a good exercise here, and they did it with Marner, where they say, let's say, okay, so he signs, let's say next week, he signs a 7-year deal for $13 million per year. That gives him $91 million. At the end of that contract, that would be 2032. He'd be 35 years old. You're not signing another 8-year deal when you're 35 years old. You'll be signing a 2-3 year deal for much less. Okay. If you do the short-term option, you say 4 years at around $13 million. That's $52 million. And then you're eligible for a contract in 2029 when he would be 32. And you could sign another 7-8 year deal if you play the way you're supposed to play. And if you do an 8-year deal under whatever that cap is, 4 years from now, you could be looking at $125 million. So the difference in those totals, if you do the long-term right away, that's about $131 million in total for the end of your career. If you do the short-term and then a long-term after that, you're at about $188 million. So you'd be getting $52 million more if you do it this way. Now it's a risk because if you get hurt, I think that's why for years now, guys have just locked me up for as much as you can, because the injury bug is a real thing. The injury factor is really, especially in the sport of hockey. But it sounds like guys like Marner and maybe McDavid are open to this. What do you think?
I get that. I understand the short then long in the efforts to make more. I mean, it does. If you're crunching the numbers that way, that sounds wonderful. Who wouldn't want to do that? Right. But again, you're asking a lot that's a risk. The injury thing, it's an extremely physical game. That's a huge risk. And again, like, to go short and then long, like in the situation of Connor McDavid, like, you hear the conversations, like what he's saying and not saying. It doesn't feel like what's 2 or 3 more years going to get him that he hasn't already got in Edmonton already. They have continued to try and put teams around him. Mitch Marner is a different scenario. I could see him doing the short term to find a fit and then
see if it works, basically.
See if it works, because he has been kind of part of the Fab Four in Toronto for so long. He's got to earn that money, and he's got to find that fit. So I would see him taking that short term and then finding that fit and say, okay, lock me up. We're winning a cup here. Connor McDavid's a different story. I feel like he's looking now for that cup, and I don't see him going short to long. I feel like he wants to find the place where he feels like he belongs and can win a cup, and a team could be put around him to do that. And I don't think Edmonton's doing it for him right now.
I mean, they've made it to 2, Stanley Cups back to back. So, and I always get a kick out of, like, the team that loses a championship. It's like, what's wrong with them? Well, not too much. They made it to a championship final, and
we don't say that about the Buffalo Bills.
What do you mean, the 4 in a row that they made, like, back in the 90s? But I just, that's a separate thing. But I always get a kick out of that. A team game 7, triple overtime, and the team that loses, blow them up. Like, oh, okay, whatever. But I could, and you mentioned, the Fab Four in Toronto. Matthews did this. Matthews only took a 4-year deal. So, and I think that was a smart thing to do, and we'll see where they are at the end of that 4 years. But the cap going up plays a role, and it's almost like, how much money do you really need, though, guy? Like, good Lord, like, you're making more money than you're ever going to know what to do with. An extra $52 million is an extra $52 million, but it's money that we'll never see in our lifetime. So I guess good for you. Get all the money that you can. But, I think we're just conditioned where the stars get maximum years, maximum dollars, and then just they're set. But you could see something change. And this goes to Cale Makar. I wonder if Cale Makar is at a bird's eye view watching this, because he can do what McDavid is about to do or could do this offseason next year. We're going to be addressing that a lot when that time comes. And if this becomes a habit with some guys like Marner and guys like McDavid, do you think Cale Makar looks at it and says, like, that's not a bad idea? I'm going to do the same thing. What do you think about that? I don't know.
Well, see, that's when you enter Cale Makar into this conversation, you have McDavid and Marner looking to do what Cale Makar has already done and sitting in a position where he could do it again and win a Stanley Cup. Marner's still looking for one. McDavid's still looking for one. Cale Makar is in a situation where, yes, the money's fine, but you are basically a legend in Colorado. You have a great spot. You don't feel the pressure. Like, you get along with all your teammates. There's no like that Vancouver drama in the locker room. Like, it's a good spot. You can make that money, have the Cale Makar auto dealership right outside Ball Arena, and be set for life. Like, yeah. I could see if it's one of those, he wins another cup in Colorado and then wants to take it home to Calgary at the end and make his money there. I get that. But we're looking at a different scenario and accomplishments when it comes to Cale Makar and a lot of everybody else in this league. Mm-hmm. McDavid's still looking for his first. Marner's still looking for his first. Cale Makar's found it, and he is in a comfortable spot. So I don't know how much money means to him when you have that comfort and an established footing with a really good team.
I just get the vibe that Makar is not like this greedy dude. Like, he's going to want to get paid and he's going to deserve to get paid. But I feel like this is going to be a really easy negotiation for both of them. I just can't picture Cale Makar's agent going to Makar and being like, this is what they offered, and him being like, that's insulting. Go get more money. Like, you know what I mean? I'm sure there's going to be some negotiation. There's got to be. But I just don't get that impression that Makar, everything is going to revolve around the dollars. Like, and I don't think the Avalanche are going to play with it. I think they're going to know you are valued and we're going to give you value, like really good value.
What is it you want, Cale? Okay. We'll be right back. We got to write that check.
Right. And as long as it's not just something like crazy, like the full 20%, I think the Avalanche are going to kind of like, I really do. It's just a vibe I get. And I don't feel like Cale Makar is going to be a guy that's like, I'm going to double dip so I can get $50 million extra dollars. No. Although $50 million extra dollars would be very nice. I completely understand that. But be like, no, I can sign a max year deal where I'm going to make over $100 million over the next 8 years. I'm just fine. Sure. I will do that. I just feel like that's where he is. So, but money makes you do some crazy things. So
preach.
We'll see where it goes. Yeah, I could. All right. Last thing we're going to do here is we're going to get Kyle on the couch and make sure he is doing okay, because his pal, Trevor Zegras, is heading east. Let's talk about that next. It's finally over. The for now anyway, the Trevor Zegras trade talk, which seemed to have been going on for the last 3 seasons, is finally over. And typically we wouldn't really be talking about this, but if you listen to Locked On Avalanche, you know that one of Kyle's favorite players outside of the Avs world is Zegras, and he finally gets traded from Anaheim to Philly. So what does this mean? I mean, you have an East Coast team. You're a Devils fan, and it's not like you have to be a fan. Like you weren't really like a Ducks fan, right? No. So you don't have to just be a fan of the team. Like, I'm a Gostisbehere guy.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm a Hurricanes fan or Detroit fan. Good Lord, when he played for Detroit. I
was a Nas guy, and I hated the Leafs. So
yeah. So how are you doing? What's your take on this? Are you buying a Zegras Philly jersey? Like what's going on?
Oh yeah, I'll answer that one first. Yes,
Okay.
That one's absolutely happening.
All right.
It's honestly, I kind of like the move, and this is on him now. He's got to stay healthy.
Yeah,
and it's going to be a nice little reunion. I like what Philly's starting to put together. Don't sleep on Philly. It feels like they have an idea on what they want this team to look like. It's not like Zegras has the most Philly attitude. He matched the Anaheim vibe a lot more. But I'm very curious to see what he's going to do in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
But am I okay with it? I'm much happier with him as a Flyer than I am with him as a member of the Avs. Because as much as I love him, I don't think he would fit. And the injuries are a problem. And the Avs don't need more of that. But I'm going to keep an eye on him and what he's doing in Philly. Might be a rebirth of that career.
Yeah, I mean, he was the young buck. Everyone was kind of looking to. He was on the cover of NHL, EA NHL, and he's kind of gone by the wayside a little bit. It just seems like it's something that had, and the coaching change there. So, maybe he just wasn't going to vibe with the coach, or who knows with Quenneville. But I just feel like this was just long overdue, a trade for Zegras. I don't think the Avalanche were really ever in on this. You heard it last year a little bit. I agree with you. I don't really feel like he fits the vibe of the Avs. Like, he's that high energy guy, which would be welcome on the Avs, but they kind of have that. Well, they do have that in guys like Nathan McKinnon. I don't know how he is in the locker room, but just seeing how he is on in interviews and social media, like you wonder if that would have played a butting heads thing in a locker room. I don't know, but I do find it funny how he goes to this trade would never happen if Tortorella was still there. Ever, because Tortorella has gone on record. The Michigan is something that Tortorella despises.
Yeah.
And that's Zegras' game. He's going to do that every single opportunity he gets. So he'd be in the doghouse after the first practice. So I think it's a pretty good trade for them.
And I think that's why he's in Philly. Because I don't think Q's going to put up for it. He's not going to put up with the antics. He doesn't run.
Not. So
that feels like, because he hasn't been in that role for too long, and it felt like it was just a matter of time after they signed Quenneville. I knew Zegras' time was up. And again, you got to keep thinking this is Philly without Torts. So what that identity is going to feel like is interesting. What they are building is going to be interesting, because we're going to have to shed everything, our preconceived notions of Philly, because they are quietly building something interesting.
Yeah, they should be improved for sure. And not just like a pushover type of team. But we'll see. I think it's a good trade for them. I'm happy that it's just finally over. Because even before, like I said, it was going on for a couple of years. And when Quenneville got there, it was just like, okay, that's the final nail in the coffin right now. Like that, he's probably gone, because you just feel like those two guys just can't coexist together. Two completely different kind of styles and vibes, where Cronin was kind of like, but he was injured a lot for Cronin's years there. So maybe you didn't just get a good feel for him. And if Cronin was still there, maybe this trade doesn't happen. I don't know. But it was just talked about so much of Zegras getting traded, and he finally did. So we can put that to bed, at least for another week before he wants to get moved out of Philly.
I could just imagine the first team meeting. Coach Q walks in there, sees Zegras. he's probably like wearing like Grateful Dead or something, just sitting there, and like Coach Q just like his little mustache just like quivers. He goes into his office and says, "Trade this guy now."
We have it on good authority. That's exactly what happened. And that is why Zegras is no longer there. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that jersey, though. So, when you get that, you're probably going to be seeing it on an episode of Locked On Avalanche, Trevor Zegras in Philly. So,
I'm like, there might have been a couple other teams he might have fit, but like when Nas came to Colorado, it felt like the most wonderful, perfect match.
Mm-hmm.
Zegras to Colorado does not feel like that match.
No,
I still don't feel like Zegras to Philly is a match, but that team is completely rebuilding their identity. Yeah. But it's all going to be on him and his health. If he could keep like on the ice, like we were talking about Valenchushkin in the grade yesterday, it's on him to stay healthy and actually contribute to what Philly is building.
I would like to know, because you did see, the insiders posting like, hearing Zegras trade could be on the horizon. And then it came out that Philly was the front runner. And nobody ever mentioned any other teams. Maybe that'll come out at some point. Maybe Friedman will talk about that on his podcast. But I would like to know, just for my own, I just like that stuff of knowing like what other teams were in on the mix. I don't need to know the full details of the deal of what players were on the table, but just kind of envisioning like, could he have worked on this team if they pulled the trigger? Could he have worked on that team? We'll see. But as of right now, the only one, once Philly became like the front runner, that's where it went. And then it happened like that. It just was like done and over with.
I have been saying for a while off air, he should have gone to Florida.
Panthers?
Oh, yeah.
Man, I don't know if he fits in there.
He could be a depth guy and rebuild.
Yeah, but you're not paying. What's his contract at? Jeez, he's at 5.75. I mean, I'm not paying a depth guy 5.75, and he's an RFA next year. So that's a tough sell for me. That's a tough sell.
He feels like a Florida, like after this cup thing wears off in Florida, it feels like a perfect 1-2 punch right there.
We'll see. So, all right. Glad you're doing okay. It's not so bad because you're not connected to the team in any way, but
it's like probably number 4 on the worst things going on in my life. Right,
he's going to East Coast. Yeah, right. Exactly. He's going to East Coast. You can watch him a lot more.
That's true. That's true. I'll probably get more of his stuff in the thrift store in the next 5 years.
Exactly. So, all right. That is going to wrap it up for today. So if anything's going on in Avalanche country, we will be discussing that on tomorrow's episode. So be sure to tune into that. But for this one, thank you for making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. He's Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow, where you have made it through another 24 hours where, like, Zegras gets traded, Sidney Crosby's that much closer to being with the Colorado Avalanche.
No.